What should you do after receiving an invite to sponsor your parents for Canadian PR? In this guide about PGP 2024, I will share the documents you'll need along with a detailed checklist that you can save, the application steps and timelines, as well as the common issues to avoid. Congratulations on getting the invite. Now you need to act swiftly and prepare thoroughly. Let's start with the application steps and timelines for the parents and grandparents sponsorship. Once you've received your invite, you need to gather the required documents. Fill in some PDF and some electronic forms in the IRCC portal. You also need to pay your fee online separately, and I leave a link to that page where you can go and pay the fee. You'll then upload the proof of fee payment and submit your application. And you'll do this through the IRCC portal. The link to this portal will be mentioned in the letter that you receive from IRCC, and I'll also share it with you in the links. After you submit your application, IRCC will review it for completeness. This can easily take 4 to 6 months. If your application is complete and it's not missing any documents or any information, you will receive an acknowledgement of receipt or AOR, and then you will be given an application number. And after having this application number and UCI, you will be able to track your application in a better way, in an effective way. A lot of people do receive requests for some update because they either make some minor mistake or IRCC requests for an updated document. After this, your parents will then receive a request for their biometrics, and they will of course have 30 days to complete this request. The next step is sponsor's eligibility. This is where IRCC confirms that you are eligible to sponsor your parents. For example, you meet the income requirements, you're above 18 years old, you reside in Canada, etc. For some applicants, it happens quite close to the AOR. For others, it can take another 5 to 6 months after AOR to get to this stage. Sometimes the sponsor eligibility can happen even before the request for biometrics. After this, for some applicants, it can take a few months, sometimes a year, to receive the next request, which is for a medical exam and a police certificate. You don't always get these requests on the same date, so don't worry if you get one request and not the other. Just wait. You'll get it. You should not do an upfront medical exam or police clearance as these have an expiry date. To avoid doing this twice, wait for IRCC to request these from you. At some point, your parents will receive a pre-arrival letter. Some applicants receive this at the same time as their medical exam, so this letter doesn't really mean much, as receiving it doesn't mean that your application is approved. The last step is a passport request. Once you submit it, you receive the COPR or confirmation of permanent residence, and then your parents can travel to Canada. If your parents are already in Canada, they will receive their PR online through the so-called virtual landing. Now, there are cases where the application is submitted, AOR is received 8 to 9 months later, then there is no news for another few months. There are cases where the application is submitted, AOR is received 8 to 9 months later, then there is no news for another few months. Then suddenly things happen quickly. For example, you get the biometrics letter, you get the medical letter, you get the PCC request, and that is all requested within 1 month. And you also receive the sponsorship eligibility letter. So sometimes even the biometrics request can take more than a year to receive. Then there are applicants who submit the application, receive their eligibility as a sponsor very quickly, within 2 to 3 months, and then a year passes by without any more requests. So there is no standard time or even a sequence for each step. There are huge variations. There are applicants who receive their passport request just a month or two after their medical exam and police certificate request, and there are applicants whose whole process is completed within a year, and then there are those for which it takes 3 years or longer. IRCC does state that the average time is around 2 years. There is a big variation. So don't worry if things happen for you in a different sequence or they take longer. The last step is a passport request. By the way, for virtual landing, IRCC sends you 2 emails for 2 portals. In portal 1, you send the details and verify that your parents are still in Canada. You then receive an email for portal 2 where you will upload their photos, or they will upload their photos for their PR card, and this is when they become a permanent residence. Moving on to the next thing, which documents and forms do you need? For the sponsor, the following documents are needed. The invitation letter you receive from IRCC to sponsor your parents, scan of the Canadian passport or the PR card for the sponsor and co-sponsor if there is any. This should be the same document you used in the PGP interest to sponsor form that you submitted in 2020. A marriage certificate for the sponsor if applicable. You also need to submit your birth certificate to prove relationship with your parents. You need your last 3 notices of assessment from the CRA. There are some PDF forms that you need to fill. IMM 1344, which is application to sponsor. IMM 5768, which is financial evaluation. For the PR applicants, that is your parents, scans of their passports along with the scan of any page that has a visa stamp or a marking, a marriage certificate, a simple CV which covers their education and work history on a high level. They also need to submit their recent photographs, and their forms will be filled online in the PR portal. These forms are digital versions of 4 forms: IMM 0008, which is generic application form for Canada, IMM 5406, which is additional family information form, IMM 5562, which is supplementary information for travels, and IMM 5669, which is Schedule A background declaration. A couple of things will be requested later, for example, the police certificate, the medical exam. You should ensure that all documents are complete and they're translated into English or French. In terms of fee, if you're sponsoring both of your parents, you're looking at a total fee of around $2,495. Finally, let's discuss some common issues and tips. First of all, a lot of applications are returned from IRCC. They're not refused, they're returned because they're either missing something, like a document, or a particular document has some section which is not properly completed. So double check everything before submission. For example, the additional family information form 5406 may be returned to you as you need to mention names of all children of the PR applicants. This includes you, the child sponsoring them as well, not just the dependent children or not just their children outside of Canada. Similarly, you should double check that you've signed all the forms where required. In terms of financial requirement, you must ensure that you meet the minimum necessary income for the past 3 years. You should also keep an eye on your email and IRCC account for updates, and remember to always answer all questions truthfully. Otherwise, your application may be refused and you may be banned from reapplying for 5 years. Also remember that sometimes when IRCC requests some documents and you submit those documents, you'll just receive an automatic reply. You won't receive a confirmation that they have uploaded that specific document to your file, so don't worry. And in other cases, they will let you know that a particular document has been added. So it varies. That's it for today's video on parents and grandparents sponsorship for 2024. I hope you found this information helpful. My name is Rashid Ali. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant from Canada. If you need me to file this application on your behalf, I can certainly do so. Thanks for watching and good luck with your application.